Hello and welcome to a little tutorial I'm going to do from a blind person's perspective about the Logic Auto Sampler, which is my new favorite friend, by the way, in Logic 10.5. I love this thing. For people that usually follow my channel, mainly my blind friends, I'm actually doing a screen record for this as well, so that my sighted folks can also follow along. So you should be seeing Logic in front of you now, and you will also hear it because I've got speech routed through. So there are two tracks I've got up here. This is my Phantom XR coming through as an external MIDI instrument back into Logic over SPDIF. It's just a clean Rhodes preset there. And on the track below,
Track 2, Sample Playback Group.
I've already got two tracks in the project, Sample, Record, and Sample Playback. Here is the sampler that we're going to use to play back our instrument that we're going to sample in a minute. So let's make this thing happen. How do we set this up? Well, first of all, we'll go to the first track here.
Track 1, Sample Record Group.
And I'm going to set this Rhodes to record every 6 semitones just to show you what this comes out like. It's not going to be great, by the way, because of the fact that I can't seem to turn off the auto panning on the Phantom, so a lot of samples are going to sort of start in odd ways. But let's talk about this, and I'll talk more about it while it's sampling, so we don't have to sit through the whole process. So let's go into the mixer.
Mixer, layout, in mixer, sample record.
Sample record.
Channel strip, in sample, mid, input, insert bar, audio plugin group.
And I've already got auto sampler on the track, but if I didn't, you would go into the plugin here.
In list button.
Choose
menu.
list. Well, actually, you choose the plugin option.
Auto sampler, auto sampler.
It's a menu.
And you would choose auto sampler like that. So it's already on the track, so I'll pull up that
List
plugin.
button. Sample
Just
record,
so.
dialog. Sample record, close button. Sample record, toolbar, bypass, manual, pop-up button.
So we're in the auto sampler plugin now, and there's lots of options, of course. If we look in this pop-up here, which is the manual, there's a few choices.
Menu, sustained, Penrose loop.
Penrose loop, I'm not quite sure what that actually means, by the way, so please don't ask.
Sustained, bidirectional loop.
Bidirectional loop, I do know. It kind of reverses the loop point, so it sounds quite cool. And I'll show you some samples I've already made that use this as well.
Drums.
I use this for drums, and I enable the one-shot checkbox, which I'll talk about.
Save as default.
And then that's it. So let's set this up with none of these options.
Manual.
Let's go and look around this window. Now, there are parts of this window that are inaccessible, and it's a bit weird, but it is what it is.
Previous, next, but compare. Copy, but paste, undo, redo. Sample note range button.
This is all the stuff you expect. Now, sample note range actually is not anything that I've managed to make work. Now, that doesn't actually matter because we don't have to touch it. There's actually a range start and a range end later on. So let's go forth. And here are all these blank spaces that VoiceOver is going over. I yet don't know what those are. If anybody who can see does know, I'd love to know what these are supposed to be for. There's like 8 of them. But then we get to the good stuff.
Range start. C2, slider.
So range start, C2.
Logic Pro X has new sustain.
Sustain.
10.0
10
seconds.
seconds.
Slider. Logic Pro X has new
And
window.
let's see if there's any help tag with this one.
Sustain field and slider. Drag vertically to set the duration that the note is sampled before its release phase begins in seconds.
So this tells you that it will be held and it's sent over MIDI for 10 seconds. So a lot of people, well, I'll get this thing going and then I'll talk more while it's recording because I can talk while it's recording and it will basically be able to multitask. So
C2, slider.
I know that I really want to start this from, I think it's E1. So you can't interact with this slider, by the way.
In slider. D1.
It kind of
Easier.
behaves in very strange ways. So you can set it backwards, but you can't seem to set it forwards.
Out of
So
slider. E0.
instead,
Slider.
the best thing to do is to do a VoiceOver shift space
E0.
and type your value. So let's type E1
E1.
and then we'll go forward.
Sustain. 10.0 seconds. Slider.
I'm going to leave that as is.
Auto loop. None. Pop-up
I
button.
don't want to loop because this is a sustained sound that dies away.
One shot. One shot checkbox. Turn on to save samples as non-repeating. One shot samples that play to the end of the sample and stop, rather than loop. Button.
And this is a checkbox that is sometimes hard to know whether it's checked or not. It's a bit weird how it works.
Range end. B6. Slider.
B6.
Logic Pro X has new
Now, if I remember rightly, I should be able to count this. E1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I really need to go to E7 because that's the beginning and end of this particular Rhodes sample.
Range B6. Slider.
So let me go in and do the
B6.
same thing and type E7.
E7. Velocity layers. 1. Pop-up button.
And for this, we're only going to do one velocity layer, even though when I sampled this initially, I think I did 3 or 4. But just for quickness, we're just going to do the 1.
Auto loop start. 40%. Slider.
This doesn't apply
Logic
to us
Pro
in
X
this
has new
case.
window. Auto loop start. 1. Pop-up. 40%. Sample every 6 semi. Slider.
And in this case, we're going to sample
Logic Pro
every
X has new
6 semitones. I'm going to come back and show you how you would change that slider as well, because I heard someone else in one of the groups I'm in say that he had trouble getting this to change. So we're going to try this as well. But let's start this
Velocity
and
response.
see what happens.
Linear. Pop-up button.
Linear.
Auto loop end. 90%. Round robin. No. Pop-up button.
So there's lots of choice in here and lots of things that you can change. It's very nice.
Input gain. 50%. 0 dB. Cancel. Sample button.
So let's do this. And what's going to happen when I click this is going to come up with a save as dialog for our sample.
The sample instrument will be saved as dialog. The sample instrument will be saved as.
Let's just call it test
select test
roads. And it's going to
Roads.
save it in the auto sample folder. I'm going to press enter now and you're going to start hearing notes being triggered on the keyboard. There we go. Now, do you remember I said that initially it's going to sample for 10 seconds or until the loop ends? It's quite clever. So when I first started doing this and I was sampling shorter times or longer times, I thought to myself, well, if the sample decays before the 10 seconds, will it hold the 10 seconds or will it stop? And it stops. So it doesn't waste time and you don't end up with things that are absolutely ginormously huge for no reason at all. I'm going to let this carry all the way through because I do want to play this for you at the end and see what it's like. So let's talk about this auto sample business and what I've been using it for. I've recorded a couple of drum kits and I've done a few other
Sample
things.
record. Range start. Dim.
And
Sustain.
it's talking. And if I go and look at this window, I should be able to see some values, although Logic does hang up while it's doing this in some cases.
Cancel button.
1 second.
38% completed. About 1 minute remaining.
See, it even tells us about the time remaining, so it's very clever. But we're going through these quite quickly, and this is faster than doing it yourself. It's also doing silence detection, so at the end of the range, see, that one did not take anywhere near the length of the very lowest sample keys. And in a minute, I'm going to go into Finder, and we're going to try and hunt down where these samples are, and we'll look at the file sizes, and we'll be able to tell that they're not all the same length because it is clever enough to know not to waste time doing the whole thing. That's why I like it. It's very clever. I'm going to sample a drum kit as well while I'm here to show you guys what a one-shot's like as well, so don't worry. Try and get through a couple of things here. And I may even try and find a sound that we could try one of the loop options out on, because it would be quite interesting. And I've done it on one of the previous samples. I sampled the sound from the Korg. Oh, we're done. Okay.
Sample button.
So when it's done, you just get dropped right back to the auto sample window. And you think, well, how do I now play this sound? Well, this is where the other track comes in. So I'm going to close this plugin window with Command W.
Untitled. Tracks.
I'm going to go back to the mixer.
Mixer. Layout area. In mixer. Sample record.
Partially hidden.
Sample playback.
Partially hidden.
Channel strip group.
This is the sample playback track, which is just currently set to the sine wave. And then if I pull up the plugin window for this, which I actually have a hotkey to do, I'm going to use Option Grave Accent.
Sample playback dialog.
I'm now in the sample playback. I'm in the sampler, by the way. If you want to load this, load the sampler onto another track, it's not called the XS24, as you may know now. It's just called sampler. And let me close this and just show you what it's like.
Stereo out. Sample. Input. Audio plug. Input.
Input.
Group. List.
List.
Menu. Sampler. Multi-sample.
Submenu.
Sampler, multi-sample. That's what you want to look for. Sampler, multi-sample. So
List button.
it's already on the track because I was a bit ahead of time. Let's go in
Sample
here.
play. Toolbar. Sample. Bypass. Factory. Factory default.
So I want to go into
button.
the factory default submenu here,
Menu.
and I'm going to type AU for auto sample,
Auto sampled.
Submenu.
which is the auto sampled folder. And in here, you're going to hear lots of names of things.
Auto sampled. Submenu. All in one piano. Phantom X Brass Falls. Korg. Pipe. Korg Triton. Music. Korg X5D. Crazy Kit. Roland. SRX05. Roland.
See, these are
Phantom.
all the things I've already pre-sampled. So the one that I want to go to T,
Test roads.
test roads.
Test roads.
Now,
Scroll
be
up.
wary, this will not sound very nice because I did one velocity layer. So this is not going to be the best of the best, but it is a test. But I'm now playing what you just heard the auto sample. And for the most part, it's as easy as that. So Lovely Roads, of course, if you want to play it on the hardest velocity there is. But, you know, we want a bit more than that, don't we? So let's go and look at some of these files. And also, let's listen to the gaps between samples. So if we listen to the bridging, it's not that nice, is it? Let's be honest, it's not that nice. So if you don't mind really big file folders full of your samples, you can sample more frequently. And so you would change that 6 semi to something else. And in a minute, I'm going to go back. I'm going to delete this, actually. So first of all, I suppose I should set this to a sample that is not that. All right, let's try not that, one of mine. Here's a Roland guitar, because if I delete it, I don't want it to sort of crash Logic and fall over and die. So here is a Roland pluck guitar that I sampled from the SE88. Very clean, very simple. So now let's go to the Finder and look at this test folder and see how big these samples are and how long some of these are.
Finder.
So we go over to Home folder.
Music folder.
Music folder.
Open selection. List view. Audio music.
Audio music apps.
Open selection. List view. Sampler instrument. Samples folder.
Samples folder.
Open selection. Auto sampled alias.
Auto sampled alias. This is actually the folder that it makes, but I've aliased it off, symlinked it off to my external hard drive so that it looks to Logic as if it's here, but it's a little not. So over here we go.
Open selection. List view. Test roads folder.
Test roads folder. How big is this folder?
Quick look. With preview. Test roads 29.8 megabytes. 13 items last modified. Auto
29.8 megabytes.
Window.
13 items. Not half bad. So let's
Open
look
selection.
at the length
List view.
of some of these file names and also the file name structure.
Test roads A number 0-127-MUPU.AIF AIFFC audio. Today at 09:22. 3 megabytes.
So that's 3 megs. And that's the A0. Is that the...
Test roads A number 0-1.
Yeah, A0. So A0... Why did it call it A0, actually? I don't know. I would have thought it would be A1 or something.
Test roads A number 1-127-6K0R.AIF AIFFC audio. Today at 09:23. 2.9 megabytes.
So that's 2 megs.
Test roads A number 3-127-90NX.AIF AIFFC audio. Today at 09:23. 2.2 megabytes.
The one I want to look at is E7, because E7 being the highest on the keyboard and with the shortest decay time should be a very small file. So let's go down.
Test roads E6-127 test roads E6-127 HZ46.AIF AIFFC audio. Today at 09:24. 1.2 megabytes.
1.2 megs. There you go. Pretty tiny. And since the first should be E1 or E0, I guess it's kind of going backwards. Okay. So it's basically off by 1 syndrome.
Test roads E3-1 test roads E2 test roads E1 test roads E0-127-U0AIF AIFFC audio. Today at 09:22. 3 megabytes.
3 megs. Okay, so 3 megs there and...
Test roads E6-127 HZ46.AIF AIFFC audio. Today at 09:24. 1.2 megabytes. 1.2
megs. So as you see, what's happening is it's not sampling for the full 10 seconds if it's not necessary to do so. Fantastic stuff. I was very impressed with this when I saw this work out the way it did. So we've done that. Let's find another sound, and I'm going to delete this folder because I don't want to keep it. And it's It's also created EXS file. It still uses that name. So let's just trash this.
Delete immediately. Delete button.
Bye.
No rows.
Nice to know you. Back
Home.
to home.
Music. Open selection. Audio music. Open selection. Sampler instruments folder.
Sample instruments.
Open selection.
Because there's samples and sampler instruments, and sample instruments is where the actual EXS lives.
Auto sample folder. Open
so
selection.
In here we go.
Test roads.x's EXS24 instrument file.
Delete this.
Today. Delete immediately. Delete button. No rows.
All gone.
Close window.
Okay.
Logic Pro X.
Let's go back here.
Bypass. Roll and pluck it.
I'm going to close this window.
Untitled. Tracks. Window. List button.
Right, we're back on this window, and now I need to go over to my other computer, which is where the Roland Phantom XR sits, and load a different sound. So. Let's try this. So this is going to be a sound that loops, isn't it? We can tell it loops. So how long should we sample this for? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 5 seconds. And then I'll let it do like a bidirectional loop. So any longer than that, it will try to loop it by itself. So let's have a loop at doing a bidirectional loop. And this time, we won't sample every 6. We'll do every octave, and we'll do it really fast, because I don't want to keep you here all day.
Open button. List button.
Right, where am I? Okay. So if I do that to get back
sample
into
record.
auto sample.
Toolbar. Bypass. Manual. Previous button. Manual.
Okay, so this time I'm going to go and choose...
Menu. Sustain. Drums. Sustained. Bidirectional loop.
Sustained bidirectional loop. It's a preset, and it just sets up a couple things quickly for us.
Sustained.
Okay.
Previous button.
Now, I think I've only ever done drums, and that means chromatically every key, and I've only ever done the 6 semis. So hopefully I can actually get it to do every 12. We'll see. We'll see. Join me.
Previous button. Pay. Reset. C2. Slider.
All right. Range C2.
Sustain. 10.0 seconds.
Yes.
Slider.
Actually, no.
Logic Pro X has 10.0 seconds.
5 seconds.
5.0 seconds.
There we go. I did the same VoiceOver double space click option.
Auto loop. Bidirectional. Pop-up.
Bidirectional. And in here, there's a lot of options, by the way. Let's have a quick look at this pop-up.
Menu tick. Bidirectional. None. Search. Search with X fade. Search with Reverend X fade. Pen Rose Machine. Tick. Bidirectional.
It's doing bidirectional, and it can search for the loop point in the file if you want it to as well. I'm not sure how well it works. At some point I'll try this and see how it goes. There's still a lot I have to learn about AutoSampler, but I've just really gotten into it and saving some of my favorite sounds, so I quite enjoy this.
One shot checkbox. Range end. B6. Slider.
Where do we start?
C2. Slider.
By the way, I just did VoiceOver up then, and the range start and range end are directly above and below each other, so it's very simple to get to them quickly if you don't want to go through all the intermediary steps of doing VoiceOver right arrow.
Range C2. Slider.
C2.
B6.
B6.
Slider.
Well, why don't I just go, for the sake of it,
B6.
C5.
C5. C2. C5. Slider.
Small range here, nothing
Logic
special.
Pro X has velocity layer 2. Pop-up button.
Velocity layers.
Menu tick 1. Tick 1.
We're going to do 1 again.
1.
Not going to fight with it.
Auto loop start. 40%. Sample every. 6 semi. Slider. 6 semi.
Sample every 12.
12 semi.
Okay, I've selected 12.
Logic
By doing
Pro
the
X has
same
new
as usual. VoiceOver double space. Click.
Velocity response. Log 1. Pop auto loop end. 90%. Round robin. No. Pop input gain. 50%. 0 D. Cancel. Sample button.
Okay, can we sample and will it work?
The sample instrument. Selection
Test,
of play. Test.
sound. Enter. Please begin. Yep, it did not do 6 semitones. So the person who I was talking to in one of the groups I'm in was saying he had trouble with it doing
Cancel
that.
button. Sample record dialog.
So far, so good.
Logic Pro X has new window.
Hard to talk over the top of that, so I'm not going to try.
Sample button.
All right, we're done. Let's go back and play this sound, just like we did before. All right, we'll load this window, like that.
Sample close. Toolbar. Bypass. Tick. Roll and pluck guitar. Pop-up menu. Dash. Auto sample.
Auto-sampled.
Auto sample. Test sound.
Test sound.
Test sound. Scroll area.
Let's listen if we hear the loop. I can hear it, but it's not that bothersome. And in a mix, you probably won't care. And there's even a key release. Fantastic. Let go. Well, guys, this is playable. So, of course, my key doesn't go any above here because I told it to stop sampling here, so it's just not going to play any higher. Now, if the multi-sample sampler at the moment was editable with VoiceOver, there's one function we can't get to with the edit menu. I could extend this range higher to the end of the keyboard range, but at the minute I can't do that, and it's a bit of a problem for VoiceOver users. I think it's just that one button is just not on screen, but the fact is, this is working as intended, so that's nice. That's another good start, I would say. All right, I'm not going to delete this because it just takes time away from the video. Let's do one last thing, and that is a drum kit.
Mixer group untitled.
All right.
Finder. Logic Pro X.
Let me go back up here. I'll leave that sound there. Sorry about that. Don't know why that did that. Back into the auto sampler then, shall we? Here
Sample
we go.
record. Tool. Sustain. Tool. Bypass. Toolbar. Sample record. Sustained. By. Menu.
This time.
Delete setting. Delete setting. Dimmed.
Drums.
Drums.
Thank you.
Drums. Ticked.
Let me go lower the drum kit. Over here. 1 second. That's not a drum kit, guys. That's one, but it's not the one I want. Okay, here is. Okay, we're going to do this one, and we're going to do it really, really short. So we're just going to do 2 octaves chromatically, because it's just fast, and I don't really want to keep it, as I said, here all day. So let's do this.
Previous button. Net. Compare. Copy. Paste. Undo. Redo. Sample. Note. Range. B1. Slider.
Range, yeah, B1.
Logic Pro X has new.
We'll start there, that's fine.
Sustain. 1.0 seconds. Slider. Logic Pro X has new window.
Because some of these have a little longer.
1.0 seconds.
3 seconds.
3.0. Auto loop. None. One shot. One shot checkbox. Turn on to save samples as non-repeating. One shot samples that play to the end of the sample and stop, rather than loop. Button.
Now, I don't know if this is on or off. Let's try ticking it and hoping we can tell.
Press one shot checkbox. Turn on one shot checkbox. Turn on to save samples as non-repeating. One shot samples that play to the end of the sample and stop, rather than loop. Button.
This is the problem. I've selected drums, so I would naturally guess it's on, so I'm going to turn it off and hope for the best.
Press one shot. Range end. A5. Slider.
Where do we start?
B1.
B1?
A5.
Okay, let's just start
A5.
with like B4.
B4.
Not a big range.
Velocity layers. 3. Pop-up button. Menu tick 3.
All right, look, we haven't done... Well, let's just do 2.
2.
You haven't heard multiple velocity layers recorded yet, so...
Auto loop start. 40%. Sample every 1 semi. Slider.
Semi.
Velocity response. Log 1. Auto loop at 90%. Round. No. Cancel. Sample button.
All right,
Sample
let's
button.
go.
The sample selection test.
drums.
The sample instrument will be saved as.
I don't want this to take all day. See? So, back to what I was saying before. If the sample doesn't sound like it's going to take 3 seconds, it's just not going to do it. But then occasionally you get these really long sounding things. And this is coming in digitally over the Phantom. And when it does that, I feel like if it's hearing something that did not decay
Sample
internally
record.
that I
Range start.
can't hear, I don't know why
Cancel
it
button.
likes to hang up sometimes. But you know what this also leads me to believe? It leads me to believe that the auto one-shot checkbox was not on because it's trying to look for maybe a loop point, maybe something I'm not sure of.
6%.
That snare took forever, yeah? So here's where, for example, I would stop
Cancel button.
the thing.
Press cancel button.
And I'm going to go and
Sample
delete these
button.
test files
Finder.
very quickly.
Home. Andre Lou. Music folder. Open selection. List view. Table. Things folder. The 10th of May. Audio music apps. Open selection. Articulation. Samples folder. Open selection. Auto sample alias. Open selection. List. All in one piece. Test sound folder. Today. Synth plug with sustain. Roll and plug.
Oh, maybe it didn't even keep it.
Roll
If that's
roll
the
and
case, that's good.
close window. Desktop.
Empty.
So I'm going to go
Logic
back and try and
X,
find this one-shot checkbox.
One shot. One shot checkbox. Press one shot. Sample. But
And we'll
sample
go
button.
again, because I feel like
The sample instrument will be saved
very
as
strange.
test drums.x's.
Content select.
test drums.
Save as.
Okay, so now I know that when I load drums, the checkbox is off. See, that went through those snares much, much faster because it wasn't waiting for the end of the thing. Okay,
Sample.
Dimmed.
Button.
we stopped again. Well, we stopped again.
Sample record. Cancel button.
See, this is the
9%
thing.
Logic Pro
Don't
X has
always
new
know
window.
what's happening. You can't always tell. But yeah, what someone suggested yesterday would be super cool is to find a piano that had a MIDI input, an actual acoustic piano with a MIDI input, put up some fantastic mics on it, whatever, Neumanns or AKGs or anything special, in a very, very dead room, and have auto sample you a piano from start to finish. Let's say 16 velocity layers, 88 notes, round robins, the lot, all in auto sampler. Imagine that. That could be quite impressive. Quite impressive indeed. Well, you know, this is at least proof of concept. I think this thing has gone a bit wrong, and honestly, I don't know why, but this is what happens when you do stuff live or with children or animals. I'm not going to sit here and let this play out because it's a little boring, but
No.
you do hopefully get the idea of the auto sampler and how you might use it. If you've liked this video, please like, subscribe and share, and please share with friends and family, because this is the only way that the small channels like mine get seen, heard about, and all that sort of thing. Thank you for watching, and I guess I'll see you in the next video, yeah? Alrighty. Brilliant stuff. If you have, by the way, any trouble with the auto sampler and you want some help, just drop something in the comments and I'll do my very best to help you out. The blind leading the blind in literal some cases, because I still don't know what I'm doing, as you can clearly tell by the end of this video. It's going oh so well up until that point, and then I screwed up. But I don't know how I've screwed up. That's the point. I've recorded drums before, but it never quite went this badly. Anyway, that'll be all. Take care, and thank you very much.